Hello, Vault Dwellers and Wastelanders. Overseer Kyle here, excited to introduce you all to today's episode of Vault Broadcast, where we're interviewing a friend of the show, Marty. He is a fantastic cosplayer, and I'm going to let him do all the conversations here in just a minute, because he goes into great detail about his history with prop making, how he came up with all these different pieces, and we go through his Instagram and all the rest to show it all off. So I'm going to let him save all that big detail and description. It's a great interview. I had a total blast recording it, and I did want to reach out to all of you and say, if you like it, please leave a thumbs up and a comment below. You can always recommend me some people that you'd like to see interviewed here. This show is going to try and air, Vault Broadcast that is, will try and air every Tuesday and Thursday on YouTube. I've got such a great lineup of guests, and the roster continues to grow. Now, we are, on that note, looking to expand out. I am recording this in a basement right now, and as beautiful as my set is behind me, I do have to do a little dodging of other people's schedules in the house. I have to do a little dodging just of sounds from creaking in the building. But I have been touring a really cool office space in town and trying to negotiate a little bit of a deal for a small business guy myself to get in there and record. It looks beautiful, but it costs a little bit of money. If you can help us out with that, I will try and flash up our coffee link here below, ko-fi.com/Overseer Kyle. That will be in the description on all your favorite listening apps, whether that's YouTube or podcast player like Spotify, etc. We do have a newsletter for the show over on Substack. You can go to vaultbroadcast.com for that one. And if you just want to see all the things we produce, from our Fallout TTRPG actual play series down to our Overseer's logs, which are me talking about the behind the scenes. It's where I talk about what it's like to be a Fallout GM or dungeon master of sorts. So if you want to check any of that content out, go over to overseerkyle.com. Very simple. I like to keep it easy for folks out there. This episode is gorgeous. I am really excited to expand it out, and I'm not gonna talk too much about it here. But again, like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends. That means the world to us. Word of mouth is the most powerful way to get exposure, and that's what this show is all about, is trying to uplift fellows in the community who are doing great work. And we want to do open lines too, so you can check that description below. If you want to call into the show, we have a service that will let you send in a 5-minute voice message, and it also lets you send in a text message that it will turn into text to speech, so you can actually have sort of a two-way dialogue with us here. We also have a Discord server, so don't be shy. Check those links, click them, and this show aims to expand out to include live streams over on twitch.tv/Overseer Kyle. So go drop a follow on that right now. Everybody, we thank you for this. I'm going to toss it to future Kyle, and they'll take it away. Hello, everybody. I am sitting down today with Marty, cosplayer, photographer, prop maker. Is that a fair thing to say for you, Marty? Prop maker? We're going to start off the very first question here. Is a lot of your cosplay and kit something that you make custom? How do you get a hold of this cool stuff? Because we're going to show some pictures here on stream today, and you just have such cool Nuka-Cola gear, especially shown in this picture, but there's obviously more. How does one go from dressed up like an average Joe to being that in scene and in style?
Well, thank you for the intro. And yeah, prop maker is about a good description for me. I wear many hats. So how does one go about that? Well, I need to backdate that to about 2022. I want to say 2020. No. Well, 2022 was where I kind of entered the cosplay scene, and that was about when we first, my wife and I first started attending Ren fairs, and I went with like a generic pirate type of thing, So I just I got myself a pair of boots, I threw on a bandana and some, tattered shirt and whatnot, and so that's where it kind of started. Now, July 2024, Comic-Con was when I first threw on that red jumpsuit. And the way I got the idea was I was just one day I was just browsing pictures on the internet, and I came across a guy. I don't know who he was, but it came from one of those Wasteland weekends, in Nevada or whatever. And he had a red jumpsuit on. And I think he had a Nuka-Cola badge on the back or whatever, and I'm like, that's that's something I could totally do, because like up until this moment, like I hadn't really done anything, nothing Fallout, and I'm like, I can do that. I can get me a red jumpsuit, and immediately, like the mind started spinning, and so I was like, okay, so I could put transfers on there. So I started, making logos, and what more can I do? So long story short, that suit turned into just an amalgamation of like all these different patches and transfers. I made me a one of those thirst zappers. I printed out a Pip-Boy off the internet, threw one of my old phones into it, and I think I had like a leg pouch, that was just kind of hanging off my belt, and one of my cowboy hats, and that was about it. And it was, I mean, it was pretty modest, but it was the first cosplay that, I got to roll into Comic Con in. It was incredibly hot. I was sweating bullets, but it was amazing. People wanted to take pictures with it, and it was such a great feedback. And it was like, oh, yeah, you're the Nuka-Cola man. I was like, and now I got to come up with a name, So like ever since then, okay, like Nuka Man, Nuka-Cola Man, I'm gonna call myself Nuka-Cola Boy or Nuka Boy, And I'm like, there's a Nuka girl already, so Nuka Boy it is.
Nuka Boy is such a great name. And I mean, it ties in easily with the Vault Boy type of name we already got out
Yep.
there. And like you're saying, Nuka Girl, etc. Watching this, I've got this video up from your Instagram account playing on the side as
Mhm.
we're talking. And it's very clear to me that your work with photography and videography really shows through. I mean, some of these shots are just straight up gorgeous, especially that one that just circled past with the
Well, thank you.
Nuka-Cola combat armor, I'm guessing that is,
Hmm.
put on the
Hmm.
maybe chair or something that's slumped over. That is just a gorgeous shot on its own. And
I appreciate it.
it's awesome, dude. You just got such a cool vibe going on with it. I have no doubt in my mind why people want to come up and take pictures with you, get inspired by that themselves. And that's what I heard just a bit of there is this seems to
Hmm.
be a mutual thing where one inspires the next. That you also
Hmm.
sound very new to that sort of scene based on what you said. So that's incredible to have such a cohesive look and name to it in such a short amount of
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, so I mean, the way I like to look at it is, just like in the game, you just kind of roam the wasteland, you pick up stuff, and you evolve or whatever, and that's exactly what happened. Because like 2024 Comic Con, I went from just that suit, and I'm pretty sure you can find that on my Instagram too. I even did an evolution collage where it was just, the first picture all the way up until now, where you can clearly see the progression. And yeah, that's Comic-Con.
Oh,
So,
rock on.
pretty modest, just little Pit Boy and oh, and I made that Nuka-Cola bottle too that's kind of hanging off my belt in the beginning. And so like these pictures right there, that's the Comic-Con LA the same year, September 2024, and that's the Fallout celebration in Goodsprings. So you can kind of see how it just, I went crazy, and it leveled up big time.
I mean, it just looks so perfect too. I love you're already drawing that comparison to the Wasteland in game. You're putting things together
Mhm.
piecemeal, and having this video is great. I just got to say, I love that bandolier you've got on there. It looks like you've got different ammo types on it. But can I ask, is that also like ghoul serum or something at the very top of it? It kind of gives that
Yep,
vibe from the
yep.
flash
So
by.
so that's the other thing, right? I mean, I just recently posted a video where I'm just kind of like scavenging for the props they use for the show. So that was one of the lunch pails that I actually spotted on the show, and so that's one of my last videos where it's just like, oh, like I wonder if I can find that, and sure enough, like you can't. And so yeah, you alluded to the ghoul serums. Those are actually like you can easily find those vials at like a Dollar Tree, and and inside is just food coloring, and water. So, and it's just like it looks the part. And so that bandolier, that was actually one of the last editions before the Fallout celebrations in Goodsprings of last year. I'm like, I need to have something hanging off of me, at the expense of obscuring the armor a little bit, but like how cool would it be to have, like there's a bunch of jets, there's the ghoul serum, there's some fusion cells, and yeah, I think I ended up staying up till like 4 o'clock in the morning. I actually didn't end up sleeping the night before that event, and so I slept on the ride there because me being a passenger princess, I got to do that.
I think there's also some rite of passage there with the needing to stay up till 4 a.m. before a con sort of event, a meetup. I hear that from a lot of prop makers and
A
designers.
con crunch.
Exactly. There you go. It winds up being right up to the line, but it's clearly a work of passion. I just got to say, I'm absolutely in love. I see there's some Plan D snuck in there in here. Some
With banana
Radex.
runts inside.
Yum. Oh, there you go. Hey, assuming they're still good and edible, you got some emergency food
Right.
on the way. Some sugar
There
to
you
keep
go.
you high for the event. That is
Mhm.
just absolutely phenomenal. Now, since we're looking at a picture of
Mhm.
is this your studio, like workspace? I see a lot of what looks like paint back there, a lot of
Yeah, so that's
paintbrushes and
directly
supplies.
behind me. Yeah, I mean, I call it, my workshop. It's not really my office because really it's a workshop. So that's directly behind me. Yeah, you can see the paint racks and everything. There's a spray booth off to the side of it, and there's just a whole bunch of stuff, and tools that's what it takes. And sometimes, actually, most of the time, I end up working on the floor. When I need something big cut up or whatever, or outside. It's just being in Southern California, is like we don't get rain much, so I can just spray paint whenever I want.
For
The humidity
sure.
gets into the single digits most of the time, so there's no problem there.
Man, do I miss that. I lived out in Los Angeles for a couple years, and we had some really humid
Mhm.
summers when I was out there, but whew, here in Pennsylvania a couple days
Mhm.
ago, so humid that even the windows were fogged up midday. It was
Oh, wow.
crazy. Not a good environment for letting things dry outside or
Nope, not
delicate
really.
painting. No, it felt
Mhm.
like we were in a jungle scene, so not
I believe
ideal.
it.
On
I
that
believe
note, is there any sort of we're getting nerdy here for those out there? I know we got a lot of fellow prop makers, cosplay designers,
Mhm.
etc. listening, and curious what might be one of the hardest pieces you've had to fabricate out of this. You started with a jumpsuit and you've leveled it up.
Mhm.
Has there been any of this that's been kind of outstanding in its difficulty or remarkable in
Mhm.
how you had to go about crafting it?
So, so the Pip-Boy that I 3D printed, actually a lot of the stuff that I 3D printed, I gotta give props to their respective, 3D designers. And the name escapes me, but I think I mentioned it on one of my posts. But I mean, these guys are absolutely phenomenal. And it's just like I could probably design something like that myself, but I just do not have the time, to pick up the skill set and just it, spend hours and hours on the computer. If it's simple enough of a design, I do that. But every time I can make something happen out of an existing design, I go for that. And so the armor itself was actually pretty straightforward when it comes to finishing it. I've encountered some difficulties, printing it. It's just like we were talking about tech. It's just you're printing parts, and all of a sudden decides to fail. And it's just I think it was one of the thigh armor pieces. One printed out okay. They were split into two parts. One printed out okay, and the other one just all of a sudden it started under extruding. I mean, you could see through the thing. It was paper thin. There were patches, and I'm like, that's like a 36-hour print. And I'm like, how am I going to salvage that? And so what I ended up doing is I ended up using fiberglass fabric on both sides of it to kind of reinforce the structure of it. To make it because I knew it was going to be on my legs. There was just, going to be stuff on top of it. It was probably going to flex a little bit. And so, and this is all just me spitballing. I didn't know if it was going to work, and long story short, I laid down the fabric, the epoxy and everything. It all cured up. I had a heck of a time sending it back to, what I wanted it, but it actually ended up working out, because what I ended up getting out of it was this interesting texture, and it looked like it was cast steel or something, So I was like, okay, well, I can work some of these bumps and scratches into it, and so in my head, I just kind of had, a vision of some of the weathering, some of the damage that, you can encounter, roaming the wasteland and everything. And that's how I like to think about a lot of things. It might be a little bit of a hot take, because a lot of prop makers tell you, like, make it perfect. You should be able to make it perfect. And then if you decide to weather it later on, like, you can do that. And I mean, to a point, I agree with that. But I'm like, if I already know that I'm going to weather it and I want to look, lived in and used and really battered, this just doesn't bother me. And so, rolling with that, it just ended up looking pretty good. And so I ended up doing the same thing to the piece that printed out perfect, but I'm like, you know, I'll just lay down the fabric and reinforce it too, just to kind of, get the same texture. And once that was all, done, I ended up spray painting it with automotive, like, metallic paint, just to get that metal look on top of all the, prep work and primer and whatnot. But it ended up working, and to this day, nothing happened to the armor itself.
That is really cool, and I like that comment you're making in there about, they tell you to make it perfect, but I as I get older, I am definitely a man of don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Hmm.
Just get out there and start doing things. I mean, that's kind of the
Hmm.
idea behind the show here. Um, we were saying tech stuff. You can try your hardest. Some things just aren't going to work,
Hmm.
but ultimately, the audience, the other people who enjoy what you're doing, they
Hmm.
don't see these blemishes like we do as creators. They don't
Right. Right.
know what didn't work in your project like you envisioned
Exactly.
it. It's hard to get
Hmm.
over that. I mean, that's a pretty human and standard for all of us. But just to throw that
Hmm.
out there to anyone listening is just give it your honest best. And heck, we do have that extra bonus of the Wasteland where maybe unlike things like very pristine Star Wars, where everything's very
Right.
glossy, very perfect all the time, super clean, the Wasteland is not that. So we get a little bit
Hmm.
extra, maybe cover for it. And I just kind of wanted to dwell on the idea of 3D printing here. I used to listen to
Hmm.
some other podcasts that would talk to con creators, people that are getting ready for cons, and that was before 3D printing was as large as it is now. So I just got to ask, so how much has that changed, or maybe enabled your kind of flow to do this? It seems massive. Being able to print a Pip-Boy
Hmm.
for your size and stuff. I mean, that's got to be great for
Hmm.
customization, instead of just sort of one size fits all gear that's out there that maybe hangs loose and baggy or tight and
Hmm.
unfitting. How's
Hmm.
how's 3D printing affecting your workflow for all this?
Oh, it's made it so much easier. I mean, I gotten my first 3D printer, one of the original anacubic photons resin printers back in 2018. Because, like, I wanted, just because I also build a lot of scale models and you deal with a lot of details, and so resin printers are incredible when it comes to detail, right? And so I played around with that for a longest time, and then I ended up getting me a bigger one, right? When I actually, it allows you to print, big parts, but resin is heavy, you know, it's heavy. It can be costly, and it can be finicky too, and it smells a lot, so you have to ventilate the room and whatnot. But it's definitely, I mean, it's great. I mean, it gives you access, to things you might not have had access to before, or you literally had to fabricate out of foam or whatever, or other materials, scratch build it or whatever. Uh, then I ended up getting an FDM printer, which I'm like, okay, great. Like now I can print, huge parts. They're going to be somewhat lightweight. Um, and the detail part of it is I don't dwell on it too much, because I sand the heck out of everything. So print lines non-existent or almost non-existent, and I don't really care for the surface as it comes out of the printer because it receives so much post-processing once it comes off the plate. So, and that's just my process. When I'm printing, I think everybody hates the print lines. Nobody really wants to see that. At least I don't want to see that. And so I take great care of eliminating those as much as I can. And but the printers are great. I mean, it's just such and they've gotten so much cheaper. There's so many out there that the variety is ridiculous. I mean, you can get an entry level printer for a couple $100 and get going.
Yeah, I got to be honest to you. I've sort of loosely always in the background paid attention to the evolution of 3D printing. It's something I've enjoyed listening to others talk about, geek out upon, etc. But I've always been very scared of it because
Hmm.
of what you said earlier, the failure rate and things. And as a guy who has yet to really cosplay in his life,
Hmm.
they've always kind of kept me a little away. But when you talk about the print lines, I have picked up a couple Fallout 3D printed props, and you're right.
Hmm.
Sometimes people are not taking that extra step to sand them down to the appropriate level.
Hmm.
Most of the time, it doesn't show in the type of video stuff I do, whether it's
Hmm.
background or me doing little B-roll flyovers of it. But yeah, I mean, it's nice when people go the extra steps to do that polish to present it as fully as they can. And I'm glad you talked about even the ventilation aspect of it too.
Hmm.
I've never really had that workshop space to do it in. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm guessing that maybe ties into you doing some of the stuff like getting it outside, having that nice weather for things too. Not mid print, but mid
Right,
process
right.
of the post production.
Yeah, that's the whole health, safety, wearing proper PPE, and it's just it's big. It's been a few years since, so in the back of my print shop, just because, especially in the wintertime when it does get a little bit more humid, the resin printers need constant temperature, to not fail. And so, whether it's, running a little heater or whatever, whatever it takes to keep it that way, well, you also have to get rid of the fumes. So I installed a big, extraction fan in the back of my workshop, which extracts a lot of it. I mean, it's such a huge difference because in the beginning, I had it in my spray paint booth, but it just wasn't, it wasn't sufficient. Like it was kind of lingering, and the stuff with resin is that you can get what do you call it? You can get sensitized to it. Basically, you can get allergic to the more exposed you get to it, the more severe the side effects. I mean, you can get like dermatitis, blisters, and especially if you're sanding cured resin, all that dust. I mean, you better wear a respirator because you don't want that stuff in your lungs. So all that sanding, wet sanding, all of that is happening outside, and with a respirator on my on my face and gloves, and a lot of the times goggles too, because I did experience that when I got that dust, or around my eyes and lashes and stuff like that. It's just all of a sudden you get those poofy eyes and itchy, and it's not pretty. So.
Wow. I mean, to your credit and point here, it is an absolute science, from the temperature control to the physical
Mm-hmm.
safety of it all.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a good maybe chance to not just change the subject, but just to fly back to this something you submitted, that you were prop master for Lost documentary in the past. Was it Getting Lost, I
Mm-hmm.
believe was the name? So
Yes, yes.
tell us about that a little bit.
So another funny story, because I mean, I'm a major losty, right? And I mean, as we speak, I'm on my 10th rewatch right now, I think. And so when I learned that there was going to be a Lost documentary that was last September, for the 20th anniversary of Lost, can you believe that? Um, I was like, man, like this is so cool. And so I was just kind of, following the Instagram page, and I'm like, I wonder if I can just get on board somehow, you know. And I'm like, I didn't want any compensation for anything. I just wanted to be a part of it. So I just shot a message to the director, Taylor Morden, on Instagram, not expecting a reply or anything, So I was just like, hey, like, I was wondering if you'd be interested in some of these Dharma Initiative cans, because that's what you can see on the show. And I thought it would be pretty cool. And I think a day or a couple days later, he replies, like, "Man, like that would be awesome, Yeah, like we use it for B-roll or for some of the promotion stuff, sure." So we got to talking, and I ended up sending him I think like a 6-pack or whatever that I made to look like that it's still unpopped. So I actually drained the liquid from the bottom, so the tab is still closed and everything. Oh, there they are. And some of them, so the two ones in the middle, that was actually the official logo with the clapboard in the octagon there. So that's what they kind of used for their promotion, and the rest of the stuff was just a sampling of what I ended up supplying them with. And sure enough, it made it to a whole bunch of the promotional photos. You can actually see it in the documentary, and at the end of the documentary, I mean, you can see my name, in the post credits, as a prop master. That's actually from the LA premiere, the world premiere of that documentary in LA. So that was pretty cool. And so they had, for every attendee, they had that Oceanic Airlines ticket, as a to commemorate, the premiere. So it was absolutely crazy.
That is so neat. And the moral of this story is be brave and reach out to people is what I'm hearing
Exactly,
because
and because it felt so dirty, I was like, am I just, weaseling in, it's just I didn't feel comfortable, but it ended up working out. Everybody was excited. I mean, they were more than accommodating, they let me attend the premiere, with my wife, and it was such a great experience.
that's phenomenal. I mean, you just got to reach out. You just got to take a chance, folks that are out there. I mean, take a page out of this book because you never know when you're going to get invited to a premiere for an event if you can chip in and help out
Mhm.
in some way. And uh,
Yes, reach
so,
out.
what? This was just recent. Then is what you're saying. This was last year, right? That this took place.
Yes. Mhm. Mhm.
So, did you have prop making experience before getting into Fallout? You mentioned something very briefly that you'd cosplayed a little before that, but
Mhm.
how did this whole crafting element of your life come about? Were you
Mhm.
doing things like this years ago, unrelated maybe, or did you dive in at one point like, hey, I'm gonna pick up these skills intentionally and see what I
Mhm.
can do with it?
So I always built stuff, you know. Like I don't know if what you count as experience, but I would always build stuff, and like I already mentioned before, most of it was scale models. So in the beginning, airplanes, and starting 2018 actually, because on top of being a Losty and a huge Fallout fan, I'm also a Star Wars fan. So um, and I wanted to build up my collection of like all these different craft, and all the ships and everything, and not much was out there, on the market. And so I was just like, because official figurines and official models, I mean, those are pretty pricey and sometimes hard to get. So I was like, I wonder if there are model kits of those things. And sure enough, there were, and so back in 2018, I got a couple, build a couple, and what do you know? I think I must have thrown one of the pictures on Facebook or whatever back then, and a guy reaches out and it's like, man, like, are you selling these? Like, I really like it. It would be awesome, like, if I could. I think it was an X-wing. It was a blue leader from Rogue One, and I'm like, well, I guess I could, but and so now, the wheels are turning. I'm like, what do I charge? Like, how do I go about that? And so I threw some together. Like, we opened up that dialogue, and long story short, I built him an X-wing. He liked it. He ordered a Y-wing after that, and that was back in 2018, and I've been doing that ever since too.
That is so cool.
So,
As a Star Wars lover myself, I mean, when I saw that on your what is this, a Linktree page,
mhm,
I went and checked that out, and I thought that was just so neat. Like that,
mhm.
these look phenomenal. We got your top 9 posts from what's this, the whole way back in 2020. It says, but these are
Oh,
just
there you go.
phenomenal. Looking at these
Oh,
details.
thank you.
And so you still doing that? Are you still selling models
Mhm,
of Star Wars
mhm,
stuff? Is
mhm.
that a kind of a, I mean, I imagine that's
Yeah.
a really fun thing to do, like people
So
very
that
into their
actually
Star
turned into
Wars.
yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you. That actually turned into a business starting 2018, and so I was like, so this whole Fallout thing is truly just a branch of what I've already been doing, and so I already had the structure figured out and everything. So, like I said, building's never been a problem. It was just, uh, you know, it always stemmed from what I wanted, and then somebody always showed up, with interest, and whenever I can accommodate that, I do. Sometimes it's tough because, like, people like a whole lot of stuff, and it's like, oh, do you have this? Do you have that? I'm like, well, not at the moment, but let me get back to you on that.
For sure. As I started to get some Fallout stuff off of Etsy and the like, I know that there's
Hmm.
pages now that I probably monthly habitually stock to see, like,
Hmm.
this dude creates cool stuff. Is there anything else
Hmm.
out there I could get? So I
Hmm.
feel that. And I also found some of your Anycubic printers here that you posted some pictures
Hmm.
of. How neat looking. Like, this is, and I mean, this is old stuff at this stage too,
Hmm.
227 weeks ago. Uh,
Yeah.
but that's really neat. So you're saying Fallout's just a kind of a branch of what you were already doing. So that makes
Hmm.
total sense. And I guess one of the questions I wanted to ask in relation is, so you've got some people who are probably your following of purchasers and buyers who want you producing stuff for that. Do you
Hmm.
have any friends, comrades, etc., that you either make props with or in relation to? I mean, you're going to these events and all the rest. I'm curious kind of if you have a little bit of a cosplay prop creator community or anything like that around you.
That's funny you should mention that because a couple weeks ago, so the pictures that you showed at the beginning of our talk here, we actually formed a cosplaying group that we call the New California Nuka Tour. And there you go. So these are so us four, the one on the left, that's Wave. I think she's a cosplayer from Vegas. She's great. I like her costume so much. And so we formed this group, you know, to basically draw more people in. We call it Nuka Tour. It's just kind of a callback to Fallout 76. The whole Nuka World on tour, and we basically just want to, like, draw cosplayers in. Just share stories, do photo shoots, go on trips. Just all around fun stuff. And just learn from other people. And so that's something that we started, and we've been getting a little bit of traction. We made an Instagram page. There's a Discord, that you can get into, and just start talking to us.
That's super cool. I'm gonna have to get in on that. Do you? I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not to put you on the spot here. Plenty of time to shout your stuff out here at the end, especially. But yeah, I would love to link to that group itself. Maybe it's in here somewhere, and I'm just too on the spot to see it. But I definitely want to
Mhm.
give you guys a follow. It's super fun to see what people can do on their own. But of course, more hands, more energy and engagement, the more you can
Mhm.
do with it. Sky's the limit, and a lot of this stuff, these community efforts are excelled and grown because of that. The community, the support,
Mhm.
people who themselves maybe don't go to these conventions, but who just love to follow it from the sidelines and all the rest. And
Mhm.
I got to be honest, that's a lot of
Absolutely.
the reason behind what we're doing here. Is I've been
Mhm.
a longtime Fallout lover. Well, maybe I should say short in the total Fallout timeline, but for 5 or so
Right.
years now, I've been a hard Fallout lover, and it's fun to do it alone. It's fun to have your interests and your hobbies, but when you really start
Mhm.
sharing them, that's when the magic
Mhm.
happens. And this show
Oh, yeah.
alone, like what we're doing with these interviews, I mean, I'm getting introduced to so much that I otherwise wouldn't have. I mean,
Mhm.
Instagram, TikTok, all these places are pretty good for discovery, but
Just
at the
so
same
much.
time,
Yeah.
we get hidden on them too. Like there's some
Mhm.
other great podcasters I've been introduced to recently, and I'm just like, wow, I
Mhm.
if someone hadn't come and approached me, I would have never known it was out there. So I think this idea of
Yeah.
creating a collective of it is really smart.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I mean, we're still in the beginning stages, of it. We have so many plans. I mean, we want to eventually do booths at conventions. We're trying really, really hard to get a booth at the upcoming Fallout celebration in Goodsprings, and hopefully that'll happen because we've been just, brainstorming so many ideas. I mean, we want to do photo ops, obviously, swag and props to sell. I mean, it's just crazy, and so we want to do as much of that as possible because I mean, we're all passionate, I mean, we all. I wouldn't say I'm a. So I've never played the original games, the one and two. I know of them. I do have them because I ended up purchasing the entire bundle years ago. And so my entry to Fallout kind of came in with the release of 4, you know, 10 years ago now. And so I played that a couple times over. And then I went into New Vegas, which I really like too. And I know I played 3 sometime in college. I mean, that was years ago too, but I don't remember it very much. And then now I'm still trying to get a hang of 76. So
I always tell people, some people cringe at it, but 76 was my first onboarding to Fallout because I've always been an MMO player. I love
Mhm.
my multiplayer. I love nothing more than coming home and hanging out with friends online and doing that. And so
Right
for
on.
as problematic as 76's launch is considered and all the rest, I it was my bridge on board. There was
Mhm.
nothing as cool as just seeing, and it's just filled with really nice players, I gotta say. There's trolls everywhere on the internet, say la vie,
For sure.
but 76 has a really welcoming group of people when you find them, and I always really like to
That's what I
reshare
hear.
that. Say that again, sorry?
Mhm. That's what I hear, that there's a lot of groups out there that are really nice people and like they help you out with your camp, and
Yes,
it's just overall great. I think that's what matters.
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I always like to do my little part when I see a new player, someone of lower level. I always like to load them up on purified water stim packs and maybe some
That's
dog
great.
food or something to send them on their
Right.
way. Gotta do the old wasteland hospitality.
Mhm.
So you're talking about
Golden
like sort
rule.
of yeah, you're talking about expanding these out, doing photo shoots and the rest. So maybe we could spend a little
Mhm.
time nerd out about photography, videography, all the rest. Do you have any like really cool cameras or kit that you like to use in particular? Or are you more of like a guerrilla filmer using phones? How do you go about getting um, pictures and video, especially like the one we talked about earlier, where there's really
Mhm.
gorgeous cinematic shot of your armor sitting there? What's your kit like for that?
So it's all of the above. So, I do have a couple cameras that are DSLRs. One that I mean, it's a T5i that I bought back in what 2015, I think. I mean, it's still kicking, still a workhorse. The other one is a D80, no, ADD. I really like that camera, both Canon, and this is not paid or anything. I just really like Canon. I like the ADD for its snappy focus, autofocus, especially in video mode. And so whenever I don't want to fuss around with, hunting for focus, I just leave it on autofocus and it does the job. I do have a drone, and I mean, and this is how old it is. It's still a Phantom 3 Pro. They don't even sell them anymore. That I used to use a lot. Actually, that overhead shot in that video that I used, that's an old shot from years ago, but I ended up, utilizing for that video, and I think it kind of works because it always looks the same around here. So I didn't have to take a new shot. And then, I mean, I do use my phone, every time I just kind of need a different angle, and I have a couple old phones too that are pretty good. So rather than setting up and moving cameras around all the time, I just set up all of this stuff and roll like that. That is not to say that I don't have to fuss around with cameras, angles, and move them around, take the shot, move it elsewhere, because that's exactly what happened in that video. And I mean, the video's like what, a couple minutes long. It took a couple hours to set up everything. I mean, minus the editing, of course, but yeah, sometimes it's just tricky. And you know, I think the take of me sitting in the chair where I'm kind of tossing the paper, I think that took like 3 takes, and the shot where I'm just kind of dozing off or napping, that was just kind of because there's no way to know if I really had the shot. And so typically what I do is, where I'm going to be positioned on a chair or where I'm going to be standing, I'll put like a broomstick there or whatever, focus on that, so then I know exactly, just kind of make myself a mark. And then I know I'll be in focus, or hopefully I'll be in focus. So that took a couple takes. And then, so I had one camera sitting on my AC compressor. That was the side shot. And the camera that I'm walking towards, that was the one set up on tripod. And yeah, and then it's just, moving those two cameras around, because there I was in front of the house, where I'm picking up the bottle. So it was set up outside. That's the drone shot that I was talking about. And I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but it's fun. It's
Oh,
fun, and you never
absolutely.
know, you can get as creative as you want, and but you won't know until, you really get to know your equipment. You just play around with it, just take pictures of whatever, take videos of whatever, play with the settings. That's the beauty of like all these digital cameras. I mean, you can take gigabytes worth of pictures and videos and just sort it out later.
So another question to this, because we're going again deep into this camera stuff. Did you have formal training in any way with this? You mentioned college earlier. I'm not sure if you went for any sort of similar, degree or study. How did you get into
Nope.
videography?
So, college. So, just to preface that, had nothing to do with photography or videography. I'm a trained geologist. you know, Photography and videography, that was always just kind of a hobby or just a really cool thing to do. That I really wanted to, just kind of fill up my free time with. And so even on our geology trips, I mean, I was always taking pictures of something. And like back in 2011, when we went to our first Death Valley trip, I had a little point and shoot. And I mean, some of the pictures that came out of that, I mean, it's incredible, like what you can do with a little piece of, point and shoot. I still have it. It still works too.
That's awesome. I started on something like that myself. Didn't fully understand it. Years later, got into saved up for a DSLR and really started to
Hmm.
fall in love with it. And I don't know if I would classify this even as a regret, but at the time I just didn't have such an understanding of f-stops and ISO and all the
Right.
rest. And then at one point I remember actually taking the time. I did in college. Have some I did some sort of emerging technology class, and they gave
Hmm.
us DSLR, borrow them from the local office in the building sort of thing. You get a stock DSLR, and I had such fun with that. And I was like, okay, this really is what confirmed it to me. I was like, I need to get one of my own so I can really learn this. Not be I struggled with that. Was like when you're using someone else's camera, or again just a generic office's camera.
Hmm.
I guess it's probably like a car or anything else in life
Hmm.
where some of it's universal, of course, but once you really start to learn that camera, once you start to learn that car, you know its hiccups, its strong points, all the rest, and can really
Yep.
start playing around with it in a much more creative way. So I guess my advice to listeners out there is if you're interested in video stuff, photography, etc., nowadays there's tons of YouTube videos about it for one. I mean, that is a
Oh.
whole industry on its own. You could go and watch
Hmm.
24 hours straight of just lighting setups and all the rest. But that would be a powerful piece of advice to people is learn your lighting as well, because that is probably just
That's
as
huge.
powerful of a concept as the camera itself. Bad lighting,
Mhm.
bad shot. Good lighting, great shot. Just letting this roll by on the
Absolutely.
side. And yeah, you got a
Yeah,
knack for
and
this,
it's just
man.
like, well, thank you. And I mean, you know, for whatever looks good on the screen, whatever I ever made, there's tons of bad shots that I mean, I keep it all. I keep all the raw footage because you never know when you're going to use it, you know. And it's just like you just have to go for it. And I mean, you don't even have, and I know a lot of people struggle with that too, and I have in the past, believing that you need certain gear, certain camera or certain anything, but just the truth of the matter is that nowadays you already have that probably in your pocket. It's called your phone. I mean, the phone's gotten ridiculously good. There's so much you can do with just that. And sometimes, yeah, it is fun to just, whip out your phone and take a video. Some of the apps that are the editing apps, I mean, they're packed with features, effects, they're incredibly capable. And I wouldn't dismiss that, just because of because it's a phone, its form factor. I mean, that no longer applies. That was true maybe in the early 2000s, the mid 2000s. But I mean, now, I mean, it's almost a supercomputer in your pocket. So just go
Absolutely.
for it.
I got into a lot of this content creation prior to COVID. I think
Mhm.
2017 was about it for me, and it's always very noticeable now as I'm building more stuff up and I'm getting really back into it. The industry around content creation at large has just boomed so much. I just
Oh yeah.
remember when trying to stream, your options were one Logitech camera that was pretty much considered like the industry standard was $60 to $100. And then if you didn't want that, this is a C920 for my nerds out there. If you didn't want that, you really had to step up into DSLR space. Nowadays, you for $100 can get these webcams that borderline or are as good as DSLRs. They just
Hmm.
blow me away. It seems now that like AI face tracking cameras, I'm seeing so many of those on the market, which
Hmm.
I mean, I think for someone who's really camera inclined, just blows the roof off of the whole thing. I still consider myself somewhat of a camera novice guy. Like I like it, I
Hmm.
enjoy it, but it doesn't flow through my veins as well as it does some others. But just
Hmm.
the whole industry's changed. Like you're saying, cameras on your phone are just phenomenal. You can get a lot of those shots and the portability of it all, right? That's one thing I think of with
Hmm.
some of my DSLRs. I'm recording on a 2017 Lumix G7 here. I believe it's Panasonic, and I love it. It's great for what we're doing. But if I were trying to take this thing off and going around getting shots with it, you got to keep your batteries charged, all the rest.
Hmm.
More complexity means more complexity. It can really become
Yep,
overwhelming for some folks. So sometimes simplicity is really the way to go at it. And there's room for
absolutely.
both, mutual growth on both.
Yeah. And it feels nice sometimes when you can just roll up, to whatever you're doing with just a simple setup, and it's just like sometimes it just feels like, oh my gosh, like so much breathing room, because I mean, like with this setup right here, two big honking cameras, a drone that's in a Pelican case, then all the accessories that go with it, tripod, and we're not even talking about microphones, those are still pretty compact in my setup, but yeah, I mean, it can get pretty cumbersome, and I remember um when I would be lugging all of this stuff around, and only to find out that I forgot an SD card or the batteries are dead, So it's nice when you can just do all of that on your phone. I mean, or most of it on your phone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And totally understand that lack of SD card issue. And I grabbed one of my DSLRs in advance of there was an event out in Vegas I was going to. It was a bunch of nerd meetups, and I really wanted to vlog it. And it was probably, I think, probably one of the first times that I'd seriously taken my DSLR with me. That was just an interesting encounter of like, wow, you if you're going to do this on a professional high-end camera, you got to be really committed to it. The battery
Mhm.
charging, the other people looking at you like that's a big honking piece of kit. Of course, I was using pretty much a kit lens. I was not on some large telephoto
Right.
lens either, but still, it adds that extra weight that if you're used to whipping out your just camera and doing that, it's totally different
Hmm.
world. But now, Marty, I don't by any stretch want to cut any of this short, but I do want to say I've kept you here over the time I've told you. I'm not in any hurry, but I just want to make a warning to you on that. You had a thought you were going to say too, so I'll let you speak that out.
Oh, no worries. I can talk for hours. So
Good.
you can pick my brain, but kind of dovetailing off of what you just said, wanting to vlog stuff and everything. So last year when we went to the Fallout celebration in Goodsprings, I packed both of my cameras, one on a gimbal, like a big, good gimbal, stuff in my camera bag, and I was actually walking around with that, in cosplay and everything. Uh, I never took it out once. I never took it out once. I was so overwhelmed during that event that I only remember about half of it. And the other half is from pictures and videos that we took because I was just like it was, I mean, one, you're at a real Fallout New Vegas location, you see the saloon, the general store and everything. There's people everywhere. 99% people are in costume, so you're seeing droves of NCR troopers, rangers, vaulties and everything in between. And there I am walking down the line, to get checked in and everything. And so many people, and I'm not trying to toot my horn here, but I had never experienced so many people trying or wanting to take pictures, with me. And it was just so, and we always joke around with my wife that she should become my manager because sometimes, and like, I apologize in advance if you ever encounter that with me. Sometimes I am so out of it. Sometimes I'm just so laser focused on something else that I like totally ignore other people, wanting to take pictures, or they go like, "Oh, hey man, like that's great costume," and I don't hear them, I don't acknowledge them. It's not on purpose. I'm not trying to be, uh, an asshat or anything, but it's just it was so overwhelming, but so warming at the same time that it was just like I had never done anything like that. The Comic Con before that was just kind of a precursor to that, and it's always the kids, wanting to take pictures, and when I give them the third zapper to hold in their hand or some other prop, they're just so, taken aback by it that it's just like it just makes it worth it, like if for nothing else, like that makes it worth it. It's just so much fun.
You are literally inspiring the next generation of Fallout fans. Like you're
I hope
that
so. I hope so.
I mean, I can't see that any other way myself. I mean, come holding the thirst zapper and all the rest. What a dream for a lover of it. And here we go. We got you and another guy here with a thirst zapper out.
Mhm.
I love this. These are great photos.
Yeah.
And what you were just saying there about the absolute overwhelm, not even taking the camera out. I think that's a
Mhm.
great piece of advice for folks out there who are maybe considering attending their very first event too. I mean, maybe
Mhm.
I mean I'm just going to speak off of what I heard, and you feel free to give as much advice or such as you'd like. But it does sound like if you're going to one of these for the very first time, probably pack light because I mean this is gonna be a whole new world for you. A whole like you're saying you're literally entering the physical and
Yep.
mental space of the Fallout universe for that. So
Mhm.
how could you not be overwhelmed? Your senses just barraged by well everything you love really, and so much passion shared around the lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just like, you mentioned pack light. Planning is a huge thing. And so me personally, I don't care if I'm lugging tons of gear, I'm used to that. I don't mind the heat either. Uh in respect to this event, it is in November in the Mojave, so during the day it was pretty breezy and it did get cold at night, so if you're planning on camping out or whatever, just plan accordingly, which, we did ended up camping out and we're doing that again. But I mean, it can get pretty inhospitable at times. So costume planning, and all the logistics around it, I mean, it is a big thing and it can make or break your experience for sure.
I think that's super solid advice. That's the stuff that can so easily go unthought of. Get
Mhm.
easily laser focused on a specific aspect of the packing or the planning or anything like that. But definitely
Mhm.
paying attention to your geography, climate, things like that. And that's something I've long heard from the cosplaying community at large is just be prepared for if your
Mhm.
costume is big, bulky, heavy, hot, anything like that.
Mhm.
Take that into account too.
And you can, again, you can plan out as much as you like or as much as you will, but just know that things will break. Things won't, always go according to plan. Plans often get fragged.
Yeah.
And it's just part of it. uh again, like this event in particular, so I did bring my institute rifle with me. It was in the car and everything, and just the night before, I finished up the sight for it, the scope. And right when I'm taking it out of the car, like I'm already kitted up, ready to go. I take it out of the car and boing, I knock the scope on the side of the door and there it goes. And so it did kind of bum me out at the moment, but I'm like, I'm just not gonna let this ruin my day. I mean, we just got here, and it's not worth it. And to this day, I actually haven't cosplayed with that rifle and I was gonna do that in Vegas, but then again, we were running late. It was like the logistics were crazy. I'm like, okay, I still have the third zapper. Let's just roll with
Yeah.
that. I'm already sweating, and now we have to walk, for 20 minutes to the convention through the traffic, and uh, I would probably have to hold it, in front of me, because the armor and everything is just it can get bulky, but one of these days I'll cosplay with that.
I just think you got such a neat setup going on here, and I wanna subject you as we're about out the door to a couple kind of quick fire questions just to
Hmm.
maybe set us up. And I always like to tell my guests here, you've been super hospitable with all this, so the door is always open if you want to come back around.
For
BS
sure, I
about
appreciate
other
it.
props you're creating or other events you're going to. We're going to try and get some event planners through here as well.
Hmm.
Some of the people who are actually, taking the time to coordinate and organize. I see there's a lot of community effort around that too. People who have, like you did earlier with the Lost documentary.
Hmm.
I've seen some
Hmm.
people who have said, "Yeah, I went just straight up DM the event organizer, and now I'm on the volunteer committee for it." I'm like, that's so
Right.
cool. That's just a great way to get in. So here's an open-ended one for you. What's one proper armor set from the Fallout universe you might want to tackle someday? Anything on the horizon that you're eagerly wanting for your build, or something you're wanting to a challenge for?
So, yeah, I mean, I get this question a lot, quite a lot actually. And funny thing about that is that this is my first and only finished cosplay when it comes to Fallout yet, because I just keep evolving it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not quite ready to let that go, just because it's had such great feedback, and it's like it's so much fun to just keep modifying it, and every con, every event, there's a new piece of gear, a new piece of armor always on it. So I want to build on that, where I still want to get the shoulder bells, that kind of, you get from the heavy armor.
Mm.
So I want those, and maybe a new weapon prop, but I'm not entirely sure about that. And out of all those props that I've made for Fallout, I haven't made a stim pack yet.
Well,
Out of
that's a
all that,
popular one, huh?
so I need to make one of those.
That would be really cool. That'd be really, really neat. Okay. So on that note, we know you're Nuka Boy here, but a question when it comes to Fallout, the factions across the universe. If there's any faction that you'd like to be a part of, if you could go either in, I don't even want to say that you'd have to cosplay it, but just if you're in universe or out of universe, what's a Fallout faction you find yourself drawn to?
Oh, it's always Brotherhood of Steel. I always gravitate towards them in every game.
Rock on. And it seemed like you got some really, I don't know if that was actually maybe some Enclave armor down there at the meetup, but yeah, maybe it is. But dang, I mean, I'm guessing you get some
Oh,
cool.
he's great. That's Ben from Novarun Cosplay. And I mean, he's just I think he built it to spec, because I mean, he's a pretty tall dude, but I think he's like 6'7" in that armor. I think that's what it's supposed to be. Yeah.
That
I
is
mean, it
phenomenal.
was
And it
it was
looks
just crazy.
looks like he's got like a GoPro mounted on there now that I'm zoomed in.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
sure if that's true, but that's really neat. Like
yeah.
just a smart, functional
Yeah,
prop. Like,
there's a video on YouTube from that point of view, and he's got the voice changer and everything. So
wow. Well, I mean, again, maybe this is some more Enclave stuff, not sure from this glance, but that's just got to be really cool to be around that level of power armor, like those builds that people do. I see walking around
and
at cons. I'm like, whoa.
there were a few of them. One of them was I think it was more like from a Far Harbor. He had like the fishing nets on him and like barnacles and
Oh my
everything.
God.
So it was pretty cool. I mean,
Oh,
it's such a great event.
I am a sucker for that whole like sunken in the ocean kind of look,
Hmm.
barnacles on things. That is really badass, I gotta say. Okay. This might be maybe easy, maybe tough for you, don't know. If you could pick any one Fallout game, which one would you choose?
So it is a tough one, because I want to say Fallout 4, just because that's where I started and that's where most of my time playing was spent. But I'm really enjoying New Vegas as well, just because that's kind of, in my neck of the woods. And so it's just like a different level of immersion. 76, I like, for what you mentioned, the community, and I think that's geared towards that. I mean, not much is clear. So, I mean, kind of a cop out answer, but I just can't pick one. I just can't pick one.
It's a good answer, and I feel you. I mean, it's something I don't think about as much, but I'm pretty sure that's why I love Fallout 76 for what it is Appalachian boy here. You know, it is my backyard. It is just the aesthetic I'm used to. And so when it comes to telling stories, and we do a lot of the Fallout TTRPG stuff, for me, it's just my backyard, and that's a
Right.
fun way to do it. We just got done talking to Edward, who does Welcome to the Waste podcast, and he's sort of telling the
Mm.
same story. He's in Canada, and he's setting he has this podcast that's like all radio transmission based, and he's even doing a
Mhm.
TTRPG, and it's based in his backyard sort of stuff. It's familiar, and so that just lends like a lot of credibility to the work people are doing. I totally get that when you're talking about New Vegas. It just touches a part of you that,
Mhm.
otherwise wouldn't be. So I really like that answer.
Right on. Yeah.
Here's a good, this is both we'll do an in-universe answer to this and an
All
out-of-universe. I
right.
want to kind of con answer to this one. So in
All right.
universe, what one Wasteland snack would you choose to munch on? And then for the real world, what's a good snack you recommend for conventions? What's maybe a go-to for you? Something to keep you energized, maybe more than just your your Plan D little pills that you can pop in there. What else would you choose?
Right. So in universe, I'm trying to think what I have my character snacking on all the time, but I think it's between squirrel bits and I want to say I think it's squirrel bits the most, or just random hunks of meat, that I just
Yeah.
scavenge, and I'm like uncooked, eat it, you need it.
Don't do that at
Real
conventions,
world,
please.
right, right.
Don't eat random uncooked meat at conventions, folks.
Yeah, don't do that. Real world, I mean, when snacks are actually allowed, I mean, it's usually some sort of a protein bar or a power bar or something like that. That's usually my go-to. And when I go hiking or whatever, I always have some sort of like mixed nuts or anything like that, just kind of graze on all the time. So,
Good answer. Are there, you mentioned when you're allowed. Have you been to, I'm maybe thinking maybe that's more the indoor cons and stuff like that you're
mhm,
talking about,
mhm.
or
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah. So they usually want it packaged, and they don't want you rolling up with like sandwiches, and stuff
Sure,
like that.
sure.
And water bottles need to be sealed and whatnot. So that's why we kind of, just keep it to small snacks and stuff like that. Because I mean, you end up eating at the convention anyway. So
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Makes total sense. Keep yourselves out there hydrated and fed though if you're going to
yeah,
these things. Make sure you got
it's
enough energy to
important.
go through it.
Take your painkillers, your hydration tablets, or whatever, because that's a big one,
Yeah.
especially at San Diego Comic Con. I mean, it gets hot.
Yeah, that's a very serious thing too, folks. Don't be passing out. We want everyone safe and healthy, not sprawled out on the floor like that. So Marty,
Start hydrating the night before.
that's good advice. You've already given us talking about the group that you're with and the rest,
Hmm.
but I want to give you a chance here right before you promote yourself. Are there
Hmm.
any other creators, prop makers, maybe inspirations to you that you'd like to sort of shout out and name drop? Because, hey, we're always looking
Hmm.
for new people to come by and chat with and all the rest.
Right
So,
on.
who might you
Yeah.
recommend us?
I mean, there's just so many people, and I'm gonna start off with just to shout out the Nuka Tour group. So the big vault-tec security guy, Tukum cosplays on Instagram. I'm pretty sure you can find it on the picture. So his name is Cameron. The Silver Shroud dude is Bale, SM_27. His name is Bailey. And then we have Kate is Baked. So that's the other Vaulty right there. So that's the founders of the New California Nuka Tour. Of course, Wave to my right is great. I mean, her kid is just phenomenal. And just I want to drop one more name. Her name's Charity. I think she's Charity Stitched on Instagram. She made her vault suit entirely out of scratch. I mean, patterns and everything. Like she stitched that thing up. And you can find her on Instagram. She has tons of pictures on there too. And she's been doing it a hell of a lot longer than I have, cosplaying and everything. But like, I was so impressed with her process and her effort that she put into that. I'm like, yeah, I probably couldn't do that.
It sounds like it's been a very welcoming community at that. Something I really
Oh, for sure.
appreciate in just all
Hmm.
these nerdy fandoms and circles is It's great when you got people welcoming open arms. I know that's kind of a thing out there. Not so
Mhm.
much in the actually, I think, convention crowd, but just in fandoms at large. We see the conversation of gatekeepers and people who want not what's best for the community in these spaces. But then you go and you see the people who are creating for it, the prop makers or the organizers or whatever you want to say
Mhm.
and hone in on. And just the stories you get back from people, how they were taken care of well, and just again, just that
Mm.
energy and enthusiasm shared amongst the crowd. It's what I like to see. It puts a genuine smile on my face.
It does on mine, and I mean, it's just like you said, I mean, gatekeeping is huge, but I find that, attending these events, conventions, or whatever, that's where you can bump into so many different people, like other prop makers, or just learn how, people make their stuff, what process, what techniques, what it is that they use and how they went about, constructing whatever is just so great. I mean, it's great for networking, but it's just like being around like-minded people. I mean, it's just so great.
I love to hear it. Okay, Marty, this is your big chance. Tell everyone out there, wherever you'd like to send them to, especially for the people that are finding you for the very first time. If there's,
Mhm,
places you want to highlight for them to do their very first stop by. I know you got a link tree that's got things
mhm.
nicely organized, but what do you send people to first if you have the chance?
So most likely Marty's Hut on Instagram, and like you mentioned, my link tree's there. So everything else is packed up in a neat little package there. So the Etsy store, the other Instagrams, like we mentioned, Star Wars stuff, it's all there. And there's a YouTube channel that I've started posting more of the Fallout stuff on too. That's called Martin's Creative. There you go. And I mean, there's some old stuff there, like when I used to vlog too, which is kind of interesting to look back on too, because usually that's where I used to work in the Sierra foothills, so you get the scenery and everything and just kind of an insight what I used to do. So I used to draw a lot, so you get some of that too. It's something I want to get back to a lot more. So yeah, I mean, just go to the Instagram and you can find everything else from there.
I love to see it. Marty, it has been an absolute blast and an honor to have you on here. I think people out there at home know already, we tried to get you in the door last week and this guy sent the wrong link out as he learns his own software. But
It's
man,
all
I'm
good.
so glad you were not only nice and accommodating, but that we got to do this chat because I mean, yeah, you checked all my boxes for a great guest. Saying this was your first interview too, wouldn't have known had you not said it. Like, couldn't tell. You were just a great guest, great insight on all these questions and topics. And man, I could keep
So much.
chatting about it all day with you, but that's the fun of having you back through. So I gotta keep myself on my toes, keep a couple questions in the back burner for the near future,
Right on.
and definitely want to touch base with you as you're doing more of the in persons and getting out. And if your group, if any of them want to come by and just chat about this stuff, it's an open door
I'll
for
spread the
all
word.
your friends and creators out there. Absolutely, that is hugely appreciated. And again, just to everyone out there that's watching us at home, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening in a podcast format on your drive to a convention of your own, maybe, make sure you go follow Marty. I will have the links in the description below on whatever you're listening in, YouTube, Spotify, the rest. You'll be able to find links to Marty. But you've also got to see these beautiful shots all episode. If you're watching in visual audio form, whatever, you can check it out. So thank you, Marty, again for your time, and thank you to everyone out there listening. We'll be back with all of you with more creators, more fun, more Fallout as things only get more hyped as we're getting close to December. All eyes are going to be on Fallout stuff. So everyone out there, you stay safe, take care of yourself, stay hydrated. It's a hot summer already. And Marty, again, thank you for your time. We'll cut it here.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you having me. And I'm glad to come back anytime.
Well, everybody, that was a wonderful interview with Marty. I'm so thankful for him giving us the time of his day, sort of twice over, because the very first time we tried to set the interview up, I had the wrong interview link for the guy. So, Marty, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you so much. Really great cosplay. If you guys can give some love to Marty out there, please do go follow his content. We will have all that linked in the description below, as well as ways that you can support this show and help us grow. I got to give you the generic YouTube one that means a ton: like, comment, and subscribe. The comment, please tell us some other people you'd love to see on this show. Tell us a favorite prop of Marty's that he showed off. We would love to hear back from you, and it really does help us fight the algorithm beasts back into their hole. We would love to get more people by the show, so don't be shy about sending this to friends or tagging them here. We really do want a whole roster of folks, and eventually planning on opening the show up to open lines where people could join us, maybe through a Discord call or this direct link. They'd be able to join us, give thoughts on the Fallout universe, maybe ask us questions. I have big plans for where this goes. And that's why I, again, throw out there, if you are someone that is capable and able and comfortable with giving a financial donation, we have a coffee page, ko-fi.com/overseer Kyle, where you can do a one-time donation or become a monthly member and get some cool things as we scale up. I have this beautiful Fallout zine idea set up where we'll mail people. What's at first going to start sort of like a vault-tec newsletter, and over time has some ambitions of growth of its own. But that all goes to helping us get an actual recording space so we can do more interviews on a comfortable schedule, as compared to right now just dodging other people's schedules. And that's completely okay. But we want a space of our own, right? We want a place that we can grow and have all things Fallout, and eventually host some in-person Fallout TTRPG games. I think that would just be absolutely lovely. So if you've enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe, send it to some friends. Word of mouth is the most powerful marketing tool out there. So don't be shy about talking about it. You know, if you're on a Discord call with your friends, tell them you watched this interview. It would genuinely mean the world to me. Until next time, everyone, I will leave you off here, but go in there, get it involved with all the content we have. Like I said, links in the description. Overseerkyle.com sends you to our full page of everything. You can find all the projects from there. And if you want to get on the newsletter for Vault Broadcast, just go to vaultbroadcast.com for our Substack. Until next time, everyone, stay safe out there in the wasteland.